So goes the leader, so goes the country. And we must talk about leadership. Of course, we understand this is a challenge because Africa keeps on rotating in one place because we have not gotten selfless leaders, leaders that target on the future. But we have most of the leaders who think about themselves and what they will carry out of the office that they occupy. Last Friday, we talked about at the topic of systemic failure. And today we are pressing with the part 2 of systemic failure. But it is good to mention some of the things that were said by some of the people that were made comments and spoke on our stream. And one of the people is saying, good morning, my take on systemic failure is that systemic failure is often dismissed as a profound teacher revealing, dismissed as merely a setback, but in reality it serves as a profound teacher revealing the cracks in our foundations and urging us to confront uncomfortable truths. It challenges leaders to dig deep, reassess their strategies. Leaders to cultivate resilience within their teams. We must embrace these failures not as endpoints, but as pivotal moments that can ignite innovation and foster a culture of accountability and growth. I'm watching from Buruburu. And this is Marcos Martin commenting on our conversation last Friday here on the Leadership Challenge Show. Joseph Nzungi said, this is mind-blowing. What we need to make Kenya and the world at large a better place for humanity. Kudos at Reverend Kavoy and the guest. And David Ogwom spoke and said, thank you for this robust conversation on leadership. God bless you at Reverend Kavoy and at Reverend Alan. So today we embark on talking about systemic failure, part 2. And I'm glad that Reverend Alan, a lecturer at International Peace Studies,
College of Peace Studies,
College of Peace Studies, and a leadership instructor. Thank you for finding time to talk to us this morning.
Asante.
And you can greet us, then we set the ball rolling.
Good morning. It's good to be here just to discuss this important topic. And I'm glad that you're tuned in. I'm sure we are on for a good ride.
Okay, karibu sana. And where did we leave it? We left it at the point where we started to focus on the top leader. Mm-hmm. The top leader in a nation, the top leader in the church, the top leader at the university institutions, the top leader at the county, the top leader at the village or the ward, and the top leader at the family unit. And we said we need to focus on what the top leader is doing to make sure services are delivered to the people. Reverend Alan Kefa, you agree with me that maybe sometimes the president means well, but the people around him break down the system. so that money that could have reached the other group, they don't reach. Medication that was supposed to be delivered is not delivered. Those inputs that the government was supposed to put into the public so that they can ease in the life of the people, those systems fail at some point. So we'll be focusing more on the top leader. And just bring us to speed, maybe briefly, before I ask the first question.
Last week we talked about the qualities of the leader, in a sense, and we mentioned a few things. We mentioned top on the list is competence. If we have a leader who is incompetent, we are in trouble.
Yeah.
Because then they will not know what they are doing. We talked about character. We talked about integrity. We talked about capacity, because they may know what to do, but they don't have the capacity to do what they need to do.
Okay.
And so those things always make for a leader. And just to take it a bit deeper so that we get an entry point, I would say leadership is a brand promise. And when a leader does not deliver on their brand, it doesn't matter what excuses they make. At the end of the day, is you told us we are going to Singapore, we want to see ourselves in Singapore. And so in a previous program when we were talking with you here, there's a scripture that popped up. I like processing my thoughts using scripture. The book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 2, depending on the version you read, it says, when leaders lead, the people follow willingly. And you see, that scripture is an indictment on one thing. It is not saying there's an absence of leaders. It's not saying that we don't have leaders. In fact, the way we are structured, there can never be a gap. We will always get leaders. The problem is leadership. Leadership is where the problem is. For example, if there is any office that needs to be filled, my suspicion is if you go to any structure within government, and sometimes even within churches and institutions, you will find that they have leaders. The challenge that we have is leadership, where the art and the act of leadership is not in play. And when that happens, then we experience the failure we are talking about.
Okay.
So then the important thing is actually to be able to look at our reference point for evaluation of our leaders. And last week we said it so carefully that the ideal situation is, given 10 years, a leader can do something. But the Constitution provides that mid-sentence, mid-term, at the end of 5 years, we want to evaluate. We want to check, have you done what you promised that you would do?
Okay.
So that if you don't do what you said or you are not on the journey towards that, then the Constitution requires that we go to the voting again, and we either get somebody else who will take us to where we need to go, or we will ask you to, continue if you've done a good job. And so that's where we sort of left our conversations last week, at a place where the most important person in the room is always the person, the boss. And we have flipped it where we have made the people who should be serving us to be the boss. And we've subjected our lives to them, where we should be the ones calling the shots.
Yes. Okay. So to help us in trying to understand how systems break down, I have looked at the type of the leadership style, or the leadership style, the type of the leader that you have is playing a very key role in maintaining the systemic flow, And if the leader, the person of the leader, the kind of a leader he is, if he is not the right one, then we can conclude that the system will not be able to work.
It will not.
And I wanted to remind you about the late President Kibaki, our former president, that we all Kenyans, we saw him while he is attending public meetings and national events. People say something, we see the old man fish out a notebook from his coat and he writes. He notes down. And that one described to us what kind of a leader he was. Maybe you can describe several leadership styles, then we can see the weakness of every leadership style. And as we interrogate the leadership styles, we may also end up knowing what kind of leaders we have, and if systems are succeeding, why they are succeeding. If they are failing, then we also know why they are failing.
Wow. We have different kinds of leadership. And as you correctly said, an institution takes the persona of the person at the top.
Okay.
For example, if you have, and I'll give you a very interesting example actually.
Yeah.
If you go back to the previous presidency, our president was, his personality type was more of a sanguine. And this is somebody who's laissez-faire. It's somebody who always happy, you know, whatever goes, goes. And laissez-faire is actually one of the types of leadership where if you don't have strong systems around that kind of leader, you will have a lot of promises and no delivery. Like, I remember teaching a leadership class sometime during the presidency, and we did an exercise, and we tracked the promises that the president had made, and they were many.
Okay. But
when it comes now to the delivery, we struggled to get the delivery because he could say all these things, and we see a bit of that in the current presidency, where in as much as there's a relatively firm and firm is a relative word also, but there is such a it borders to between being dictatorial, what I would call a benevolent dictator, where I'm giving you with one hand, but I'm actually taking with this other hand. That is a leadership style. And so this is now a blend of two personalities, where I sound and look benevolent. I'm taking you to your promised land. I'm doing this, but on the other side, I'm taking a lot from you. That is a type of leadership. There is a type of leadership that is democratic, where the majority will have their say, their way. The minority will have their say. And we have all these types of leadership. And so when we are going to pick our leaders, there is something, I asked AI to give me the definition of leadership. Allow me to read, because it answers your question so well.
Okay.
Systemic failure, I just asked what is systemic failure.
Yeah.
Systemic failure, often catastrophic, breaks down within an entire system, institution, or organization, rather than a localized area. So when the fish rots at the top, if the top is bad, this fish will be bad all through. All right. And there are some words that are said here that I felt are so critical to our conversation. It says it arises from deeply embedded flaws.
Yes. Which
which means these are cultural issues. They are not even, and last week I talked about culture and strategy, where if the culture is wrong, it doesn't matter what we are trying to do. The culture will actually, undermine us. And so embedded flaws such as ignored risks, poor design, or lack of oversight that causes repeated, predictable failures.
Can you repeat those three things, because I think our conversation may center around those.
It arises from embedded flaws.
Embedded flaws
Such as ignored risks.
Yeah, number one, ignored risks. Yes.
Poor design.
Poor design.
Or lack of oversight.
Lack of oversight.
That is, in a nutshell, that is a systemic failure. And you see, the word design is such a big word, because form over function, how you want to use a building will determine the design you will make for the building. For example, if I want to build a toilet, I will just get 4 posts and, you know, build them up here and put a fence around it. But if I want to build an executive toilet, I will probably do a foundation, get a sewer line, you know, get a few things here, get tiles, get mirrors, get hand dryers and all that. Both of them are toilets.
Yeah.
But how I want to use it determines the design that I will do. And that comes then to governance. What do we want to achieve? We want to get to Singapore, and that's a great promise. But how do we want to get there?
Yeah.
You see, there's a mind map that I normally use in leadership, where we talk about a preferred future, and we can describe that very well, and that's vision. That's you know, that's our vision. That's where we want to get. Yeah. But we must come back and locate ourselves where we are. We want to go there, but where are we? We must also describe where we are. We don't just describe where we want to go. Yeah. Because if we describe where we want to go and we don't describe where we are setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
And so it's now a conversion of design. We describe where we want to go, then we describe where we are. Then the third question is, how will we get from where we are to where we want to go? Yeah. There comes now the roadmap, which now requires design, it requires supervision, it requires all these things that are mentioned here.
Yes.
And so if I send our cameraman to town and it is 3 hours later and he has not come back, there's no feedback, when I make a phone call to him, my first question will be, where are you? Because where are you is directly tied to where you are supposed to be. And so as a leadership in a nation or in an institution or even as a church, the reason why we have that midterm 5-year is to ask the question, where are we in light of where we wanted to go? We had said we want to go to town. Yeah. You know, I remember driving to the village with my children when they were small. By the time you're in Limuru, they're already asking, are we there, you know? And we are going all the way to Kakamega.
Yes.
Well, it's because they are looking for the true north. We are here in light of where we are going. How far are we? How much distance is left? And so that when we are talking about the vision of the nation and the dreams of having a better world, that's great. But where are we in terms of that? And so when we don't have a good design to evaluate where we are in relation to where we are going, the system will crash, because we will begin improvising. We will begin wanting to sound good, which does not reflect the reality. There were some promises that were made 5 years ago, nationally and also in the local governments and all that. What we need to be doing right now should be an evaluation. We should be looking at the roads that we were promised. We should be looking at the institutions that we were told would be strengthened. We should be looking at, it's crazy that we don't have an electoral body and it's, I don't know how many months to the election. Those are the things that we should be asking ourselves, because those are the systems that will help us to move forward, to go to the place where we have said we are going. And when we began this, I said leadership is a brand promise, and the promise is as good as the person who has made the promise. Such that if you're promising to get us to a certain place, then we want to see your behavior now. I don't expect that we are not doing what is required and expect to get where we need to get. I use my mother as an illustration. We are now in January and there is no rain. But you know what my mother is doing right now? She's tilling her land. She's investing money. Okay. She's getting people to till her land. She's getting people to dig the ground. She's buying seeds. She has not seen rain. So when the rain comes, already she will be ready for the rain comes. Okay. And in leadership, it's the same thing. It is like hitting a flying bird. When a bird is flying, you don't aim at where the bird is. You aim at where it will likely be by the time it collides with either the stone you are throwing or the bullet you are shooting, right? And so when we are saying that we are going to set that place as a nation or as a government, our behavior right now will tell us if we'll get there or not. Okay. Because if you're not dealing with corruption, we are not dealing with the lies that are being floated around. We will not get to the Singapore that we are promising.
Okay, let's look at the type of leadership, the types of leadership. And we have mentioned several already. And I want us to look at the credits and discredits of each.
All right.
We've talked about dictatorial leadership. Is it the same as authoritarian?
It is it's authoritative leadership in a sense.
Yes.
Because it is what I would call top down.
Okay.
Where the leader says it's my way or the highway. We are going there, and if you're coming.
What kind of leaders do you think we have in Africa? Majority of the African leaders.
Majority of the African leaders are fall in that category
of
being dictatorial.
So even in countries where we say, oh, Kenya is a democratic country, or another country, Ghana, you'll find that the leader will have that tendency.
You know, I'm throwing quite a number of words that need unpacking. For example, when we talk about culture, culture minus language, you will not have culture.
Yes.
And so when we say democracy, in our culture, democracy may mean a totally different thing from another culture.
Yes.
Because I've told you what I'm doing, I'm democratic. In another culture, that's not democracy. You know, in another culture, we will tell you what we want you to do, and we are sending you to do it for us on our behalf. And so, what we need, why we are saying most African countries are dictatorial, you will notice that despite the constitution being what it is, the president still have prerogatives to pick the officers around.
Let's not assume everybody understands what a dictator does. Can you describe what is dictatorship?
Dictatorship is a place where all power is captured in one central place, in one person. Okay. A good example would be, if you look at the nation of Rwanda, it is progressing very, very well, but it is simply because, do you know who is the deputy president of Rwanda, or one minister in Rwanda that you can name? It is because the power is embedded within this one person. And so the direction of the nation depends on what he had for breakfast. Okay. It depends on who are his friends. It depends on who are his networks. It works to a certain degree where you don't have enough people around him who are trained. You don't have enough people around him who are exposed. You don't have enough people around him who actually have a voice. But if you employed that strategy in Kenya, the nation would fail the next weekend. Okay. Because Kenya, on the contrary, we have people who are well educated, people who are well exposed, people who are well networked, people who, for example, somebody can leave Kenya, go outside and fundraise for election and come back. Okay. And so we have a good connection with the diaspora.
Yeah. So what exactly you are saying about dictatorial leadership or authoritarian leadership is that the big man is never questioned.
The big man is not questioned. Okay. You remember in Kenya a few years back we had there was a statement, Kanu ndio baba, ndio mama, you know, which simply was an insinuation that the organs at the top are you know, everything is caught up in that organ at the top, and so the person who is leading that kind of a structure, he cannot afford not being a dictator. If he, I mean, in that kind of structure, if you are soft, you can't lead the nation. Okay. Let's look at Uganda. We've had the same president for. There are some people who have never known any other president in Uganda, and
their whole life,
and now have families, you know, and they're even vying for presidency. Like I'm not sure this young gentleman who is vying for president, if he has ever seen another president in Uganda. Look at how they ascend to power. Uganda has never had a democratic election. Every president who has ever been a president in Uganda has been out of a coup. And when you come in by a coup, then by default you become a dictator, because how you get into power will determine how you sustain that power. Okay.
And in dictatorship, the word of one man is the law of the whole land.
Is the law in the land. Okay. Is the law in the land.
And so then now we wanted to examine the disadvantages of this kind of leadership, so that when people agitate for other types of leadership, We know exactly what we are missing in dictatorship and what we will get maybe in the other type of leadership. Can we list some of the disadvantages? Because if the word of the authoritarian leader is the law of the country, do constitution work in such places?
No, the constitution does not work in such a place, because then here they operate in what I would call, instead of the letter of the law, they go by the spirit of the law, where we want to achieve certain things, and what the constitution says does not matter as long as we achieve those things.
Yes.
There's this President Traore, who is doing so many good things, you know, and everybody is celebrating him. But the elephant in the room is, how do you sustain that kind of development? How do you even replicate? Okay. Because you asked a very good question. What are the disadvantages of a dictatorship? I think the perfect example would be Libya, where we had a dictator and he was doing very good things. And every time he would come, he would say, "I'm doing this for you." A dictator is like a narcissist. They appear like they have your concern, but then now look beyond what he is doing. What structures are there? What Pandora's boxes has he opened? Because when I am the only one speaking, the people around me will steal left, right, and center, because there are no laws that are protecting the citizenry.
So in dictatorships, the law does not matter very much.
The law does not.
What the big man says,
it's the emotions of the big man. If he had a bad day, he may say something bad.
And so we need to warn ourselves, you know, warn one another as Kenyans, because sometimes I see people gravitating towards that kind of a thought, whereby it's like we are celebrating when we see somebody becoming authoritarian, whether it's a governor or what. We tend to feel like, and dictators are celebrated in many places, but we must point the dangers of dictatorship.
Let me tell you something that will make me not make many friends. Take your average church in Nairobi, where it is this person who planted the church. They used their own resources, they used their own networks, and now the church has grown. It has about 300-500 members. If that person was not thinking of systems, he will be a dictator using a Bible.
Okay.
He will be because his word is the law. And we have seen people say
in many places,
kuja hapa kwangu ni kanisa yangu and all that, and they call other people, other places, kiosk and all that. That's a dictatorship, where there's no oversight, there's nobody to call them out, there's nobody to correct them. Whatever they say goes. That's a dictatorship. And within a very spiritual environment, you know.
Okay, let's move on quickly, because I know we have a lot to cover. And so we have seen one of the characteristics is that there's no other law.
The person is the law. The person at the top is the law.
If he's happy with what is a bad thing that has been done, that bad thing becomes a law.
Let's go back to Uganda. Look at the president and his son. Look at how the son of the president is coming out and the things that he's saying all over the place every other day. I don't know how much it is helping that nation. we just leave it where it is, but because of the nature of the leadership, because this young man, when he stands, he represents the man at the top, and it is his son. He will say whatever.
Okay.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
No constitution. The big man's word is the law. Let's talk about another characteristic. Do dictators listen to opinions of others?
The only opinion dictators listen to is when they are being praised. It's when they are being told they have done well.
Okay.
It's when they are being told what they want to hear. Because a dictator will not take correction. He will not take rebuke. He will not take instruction.
Yeah.
He is not subject to any law. He is the law.
Yeah.
And so whenever you say something that does not prop him up as the main person here, you will be branded the enemy.
So all the opinions of all the other learned, educated people is trash.
Let's take the history of Kenya as an example and look at from the Jao Pintos of this world to the JM Karaokes and to the you know, all these people who lost their lives. Brilliant minds. But what was their crime? They had a different position. That was the only crime.
They had an idea.
They had a different way of looking at governance.
Yes, tomboyas,
you know, the tomboyas. They had a different way.
And all those things.
There you go. They didn't steal anybody's anything. They just had a different way of looking at governance that the government of the day was uncomfortable with, and people lost their lives. Okay. That's how a dictatorship functions, and sometimes on average a dictatorship shoots itself in the foot.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to imagine, I'm not saying that would have happened, but I'm trying to imagine what kind of leadership this nation would have experienced if JM would have been alive maybe 10 more years or 20 more years, or if Robert Ouko had been alive for a bit longer, or if in any of the, I don't know what would have happened. We don't know, because we've seen people get into office and they change. But if you have somebody who is running, we will talk about a democratic government.
Yeah, we are going to others because we really want
if we talk about a democratic government, we then have something that is called an opposition, where it is a government that is checking the government. And so they have all these positions, all these functions amongst themselves. I'm just wondering how this nation would have been if we had an opposition that had the likes of those people with the freedom to speak.
Yeah.
You know, what we've had has been a version of the opposition that we don't want to talk about now, but has it been the opposition? I'm not sure for what an opposition should be. And so when a dictatorship is a structure that is like a pyramid, and there's something on the top that cannot be questioned.
And I feel like at this point you need to explain a popular statement that is usually spoken commonly, that wisdom is not a monopoly.
Yeah, wisdom is not a monopoly, because
and maybe as you describe that, you can show what a nation lacks when leaders cannot listen to opinions of others, because that's why you're explaining the monopoly thing.
Do you know, not every person who is old is wise, because even fools grow old. You know,
wow.
And so we can't just to say the monopoly of wisdom is not just with the people who are
old
at the top or are old. You know, and our culture has sort of pulled us towards that's why there's something called wahenga. And wahenga, my assumption is there were some old people in a corner somewhere who would give laws. It was like in the culture of the Meru, the Jurinjake, they almost come close to being wahenga, because they're the ones who determines who is this and who is that and all that. There is nobody who has the monopoly of wisdom. And I'll tell you why. Where does wisdom come from? Wisdom, you don't just arrive at wisdom. Let me give you the technical where wisdom comes from. You see something called data.
Yeah.
Data is a useless set of numbers until it is processed.
Boring. It may not be useless, but boring.
No, it's useless before it's processed, actually.
Okay.
It's like when I tell you 316, what is 316? Until you begin to process that, you know. When it is processed, it becomes information.
Okay.
And information in and by itself still doesn't help much, because how does it affect the price of sugarcane in my village because Arsenal won a match yesterday? That is information, but it's useless. It has to be given context.
Yes.
It has to be compared with other information, because when information is processed is when it becomes knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, did you know that we make decisions based on what we know, not information? Because knowledge simply means There is context, there is comparison, there is all these things. That's when it becomes knowledge.
Okay.
Now, what is wisdom? Wisdom is the correct application of knowledge. So if we don't have data that we have processed into information that has become knowledge, then our wisdom will be suspect. Our wisdom will have so many gaps around it. And so for us to be able to have the wisdom that is required to lead our nation, for example, then we need to be able to go through the process of Kenya has a population of what, 40-50 million, all right? That's fair enough. But within that population, who is young, who is old? And if you process that information, this is what we'll arrive at. We'll arrive at a place where we now realize that Kenya is a young nation. That is knowledge. And whatever decision we make that does not put in mind this young population, we will have a nation that will crash within the next 10, 15 years. Okay. And so the wisdom simply means we apply what is understood within the context. We apply the knowledge in a way that, again, if I go back to scripture, a house is built by wisdom. It is
stocked or furnished.
It is built by knowledge. It is established by understanding. So there is wisdom, there is knowledge, there is understanding. All these words, they come into play when we're looking at leadership.
So, and basically what we are saying and what we are driving at is to make sure that when we talk about dictators, dictatorships, we know exactly what the nation will begin to suffer from, because no other person, if a dictator ascends to power, no other person in that country will be wise anymore. They will all become foolish, even if they are professors, and that is the downside.
That's the downside.
That is the worst thing about dictatorship.
You quoted Maxwell when we began the program, and there's something that Maxwell says that is very powerful. He says, a weak leader raises followers. That's a weak leader. A strong leader raises people who are at the same level as they are, if not above them. When I am secure in who I am and in what I do, I have no problem having somebody who is smarter than me. Let me use your leadership as an example. You don't operate a camera. You don't, I'm 100% sure you don't do the finances of this institution. You don't drive all the vehicles that are around here. What have you done as a leader? You have been able to identify people who can do things that you cannot do. And you have been able to delegate that. That is good leadership. But then when you see, maybe I'll dig a hole, but you will allow me. Let me look at the leadership of somebody who was very popular when they were the Minister for Education. And he would show up everywhere and do things that we thought were really good. But for me, when I was looking at him, I was wondering what's wrong with this gentleman. Because how the Minister of Education will leave his office and come to a primary school to fire a head teacher, I don't understand. And what makes it worse, he even comes with a camera. And so what this person is doing, he's not working, he's playing for the gallery. It is like the leadership we really celebrated of somebody called Magufuli. And we really celebrated him. But when we look at his were there any structures around him? Because we are talking about somebody who's vying for presidency right now. He was the Minister of Education. Were there structures around him? How many layers of leadership did he skip within the structure for him to show up in a primary school to fire a head teacher? Is that really his work? And if he had to do that, did he really need a camera? So the issue was not him firing the teacher. The issue was, in public, it would be seen that he's working. But the number of things that he has violated along the way, it makes me suspect that kind of leadership.
So in a dictatorship, no other person is wise, no other idea works.
There you go.
Only the idea of the dictator.
There you go.
Only the plan of the dictator.
So you can imagine how blindsided that leader is, because you cannot know everything.
Yeah.
and everybody around you has been silenced. Here's a leadership nugget.
Yeah.
A leader who does not listen,
Yeah.
a leader who does not listen, ultimately he'll find himself with people who have nothing to say.
Okay.
That's a nugget in leadership.
A leader who does not listen
Will find himself
will most likely surround himself
with people who have nothing
with
to
people
say.
who have nothing to say.
That's right.
Only to sing songs for
So these
him.
people will be just clapping for them, saying things that make them look good and feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
But they will have their head buried in the sand.
Okay. Maybe we can say the last thing. I know we can list as many as possible, the downside and the disadvantages of dictatorship. But I think we need to look at one of the worst things about dictators is how they live in fear, and how the country begins to suffer because of their fear, how we begin to lose people because of their fear, how we begin to lose money because their security must center around the abundance of money that they have, and all that kind of a thing. Dictators are fearful people.
They live in fear. That's why
And the country will suffer because of that fear.
I've
I've
mentioned a few bright minds that you've lost in this nation because of the fear that comes out of dictatorship. Let's go back to the pastors. I have the authority because I'm a pastor.
Yes, yes.
My mind has never gone past the fact that people preach about heaven and there are people standing next to them protecting them. Not from gangsters, from their own congregation, such that by the time they're through, they are whisked away, and there's an exit that is on the side there, and you probably may never even get to, if you have the privilege of talking to these guys, it is a big privilege. It is a very confusing picture for me.
Okay.
Because if I look scripturally, for me to live is die, to die is gain. For me to live is Christ, to die is gain. And so these are people who are speaking about a heaven they don't even want to go to. Why do you think they take that position? It is because of fear. And where does fear come from? It is because there are no systems around them. There are no structures that would even make them have the peace that they are looking for, and all that. Okay. I had an opportunity of knowing Mzee Kayo Kidogo, not so much. I was not very close to him, but my father used to, serve in his ministry when we were little. Mzee would walk at the city center alone. In fact, when he would land at the city center, he would park and walk alone throughout the city center. That is somebody who is not living in fear. I'm bringing in the pastors for the simple reason that the dictatorship approach, I'm doing that in quote unquote, the dictatorship approach of your average ministry here in Nairobi is what causes that fear of because why do I have enemies and I'm a minister of the gospel?
So dictators, out of their fear. Somebody was telling me these gangsters, these violent armed gangsters, robbers, they kill because of fear, not because of anything else.
It's because of fear.
And I think one of the common occurrences in places where dictators rule is murders and killings of people.
Killings are always there. Where there's a dictatorship, lives will be lost.
Okay.
Lives will be lost.
All right. So dictatorship is, or authoritarian, is a very bad type of leadership.
It is.
For the short term and what we may call like a stopgap measure, it could be okay.
It works.
But if, and you see, like, when we talk about the junta, the juntas, these strong military men who overturn governments and they rule, For some times, like now, Traore will appear to be doing well because it's a stopgap. He's correcting things that had gone wrong, but it should not continue for long.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
You can see how far Rwanda was able to go because of the dictatorship that was there. But for how long?
For how long?
Yes, because right now the conversation there is they're looking for life presidency and things like that. And you see, when you make laws around a person, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because this person will not live there forever. There will come a time when it will not be them who are in the office, and you had these laws that you are put in your constitution. Then you don't know what to do with those laws.
Yeah.
It's like these conversations we've been having about the change of the constitution, so we begin to insert so that we can please so and so that we can make this pass and all that. And at the end of the day, we end up with a very temporary illusion of peace, but ultimately we set laws to keep out certain people, but then when we leave office, the same laws begin to bite us. They begin to, that's what dictatorship does.
Okay.
They put in laws to protect themselves, preserve themselves in office.
Yes.
But then when they're not in office, their children are the citizens. So the children get the same oppression that they were trying to protect themselves in.
Okay, we move on to the next type of leadership. We mentioned democratic.
Let's look at democracy.
Let's look at democratic leadership.
Democratic leadership, on the other hand, when I was in primary school, we did something that is called civics. Civics is civic education, where we learn to recite the national anthem, the loyalty pledge, and things like that. I don't know if that's still being done in schools. But there was the definition for democracy was the people, the government of the people, by the people, for the people. And so the operative word here is the people. And so the model of having the voice of the people being loud becomes the foundation of democracy. Let me take 3 steps back and describe a situation. It will help us to understand how government really works. In the village, just using my imagination, in the village there could be somebody who understands very well how buffaloes behave, all right? But this person, if he tried to go and hunt a buffalo by himself, his knowledge is not going to help him.
Okay.
His knowledge of how buffaloes behave. Another one would know how to track a buffalo. Another one would know how to kill a buffalo. Another one would know how to skin a buffalo. Another one would even know what to do with the skin of the buffalo after the buffalo has died, and the horns of the buffalo. Now, all these things exist within the same community, but not a single member of the community is able to take down the buffalo by himself. If you put together these people, the one who knows how the buffalo behaves, the one who knows how the buffalo, how to kill a buffalo, the one who knows how to track, the one who knows how to skin, and the one who knows how to do this. If you put them together, you will be able to bring down a buffalo, and you will maximize on that buffalo. Now, that is how a tribe, a government, even a church is built, where we have these different people with these different skill sets, that when we bring them together, we are able to accomplish our goal. In the case of the buffalo, the goal is to bring down the buffalo. But in the case of a nation, it is to, end poverty. It is to end, to bring the standards of education up. It is to take care of healthcare. It is to take care of good road networks and all that. All these are real and felt issues within communities, and we have different people who can be able to manage the different phases of responding to our issues as a nation. Now, where democracy works is is when these people are put together, there's a way we can be able to tap our talent. There's a way we can be able to draw in some of the best minds we have in our nation, and we begin to address the issues that are in our nation. That works very well, so that then it is not somebody at the top there thinking about their cousin to bring them to be the minister of this or the minister of that. We talked a lot about that last week. We don't need to repeat. But in a democracy, it is where our system works so well that at least by bare minimum, the best minds that we have been able to raise in this nation are able to get to places of authority.
Okay.
The best doctors are able. That means we will have systems and structures that even check our examining process. Because if we get people who have stolen exams to go and become doctors, we will have people who cannot be doctors, and all that. So in a democratic setting, it is where systems serve the people more than the people serving the systems.
Yeah.
And like we said last week, any system is as good as the people running that particular system.
Yeah.
If we get the wrong people running a system, it doesn't matter how good they are, we will not have a good system.
Yeah.
And so democracy serves the population. Again, I go back to my illustration. Ideally, a president serving for 10 years, he will move us 10 years closer to our goal. But mid-term, democracy allows us to evaluate that president and say, the last 5 years, this is what we have done. Do we want to continue, or do we end the journey here? That's democracy, where there is a system that makes it possible for us to check and call back somebody who is not working. Even in our constitution, it's not even that we don't need to wait for 10 years. If we can be able to mobilize the numbers within 2 years, we should be able to say we don't like what so and so is doing.
So in democracy, it is the people, and I think we have had a lot of deception and the lying about we are democratic. These are democratic principles, when actually we are dictators in disguise.
It works.
So I wanted you to come in and show the role of the people in a democracy.
Let me go to the county governments for briefly, in as much as it has been abused, but I don't know if there is any other nation in Africa where people have said, we don't like what the governor is doing, we will impeach him and send him home. It is only in Kenya, where we can have a presidential election, and the court can say this election was fraudulent. Let us do it again. It is only in Kenya where people can sit and say we are not sure the deputy president is serving us. Let us recall him. On paper, it is telling us that we have the structures that can help us to govern this nation in the way that it should. Just looking at those examples. However, when it is somebody who doesn't like somebody else, and then we spend money to mobilize and gang up against one person, and somebody is relieved of his duties or her duties because somebody else in another office doesn't like them. We have become, can I use the word dictatorial, using a democratic system. Okay. I don't know if there's such a thing, where it is actually, I'm trying to stroke my own ego, I'm trying to do what I want, but I will use the system to achieve that. And so we use a very democratic system of go to parliament, vote of no confidence, go to another place, do this, go to another place, impeachment. it is, we are telling ourselves that democracy can actually work for us. Because if we have such an effective system that we can actually be able to call out somebody and send them home, what if our motivations were pure? What if our motivations were for the sake of the people? How much more can we be able to achieve as a nation? Because we know of governors who've been sent home. Nairobi, we've sent home a governor, and other places we've sent home a deputy president and all that, which means democracy sort of looking at now the dictatorship, where we've had a president for 50 years and still going. There's a system next door where if something doesn't work, we will actually send them home. We have had change of power between Moi to Kibaki, Kibaki to Uhuru to President Ruto. I don't see any other African country that can beat that record for now.
Okay.
We can be able to have transfer of power. So we have...
But we can say we have democracy.
We have democracy.
It may not be a pure type of democracy, but at least we are better off than our neighbors.
It would be wrong for us to compare ourselves with our neighbors, for this reason. Then we would never maximize on our potential.
Okay.
We would think that we are good because we are better than our neighbors. What we need to be doing is, how can we then get the right people within this good system? Okay. Because we have a good system that, all things considered, we may not be having all the right people in the right offices. Because if we keep at it, we sustain where it is and make it better by getting better people within the system. And I've repeated over and over, a system is as good as the people running the system. Yes. If we have bad people in a good system, the system will still collapse. So we need to get in good people. We need to get in, people who can be able to take us to where we need to go to get to.
We are beginning to wind up now because we are running out of time. It's like we have less than 5 minutes, but maybe we'll return here and talk more about democratic type of leadership and the benefits and also the downside of it. But I feel like we must say something about the will of the people. And in our constitution, we have come up with what we call public participation. So that a leader will not do things for his own fame. I keep on hearing people talk about, this will be my legacy when I leave. And sometimes I'm seeing us doing things for legacy rather than things for people. So and so when he was in office, he helped us to have this. So I must do this so that now when I'm out of office, I can be remembered for this. And sometimes it may not be about the people, but about the leader and his own desires and his own goals. So we need to describe the expression of the free will of the people. Not that they are under duress. They are not being forced to accept something, but they have looked at themselves and they have said, what we need is medicine in the hospital and not the other project which is being advanced. And if the leader then advances with the other project which is not serving the interests of the people, it's a good thing he has done, but it is not the pure will of the people. The project was forced down their throats, and it may not make countries and nations better.
Look at how much money we spend on election petitions, for example. On average, in every election cycle, not less than 20 to 30% always ends up in a petition. Look at how much time and money we spend on that. and you will notice that it is never about the people. It is me feeling that I was not elected, so I have to petition this. Look at how much money is spent. It is tax money that is used to do the CDF. But how much money is spent to put a banner there with somebody's face saying they have done 12 chairs in a school? You know, we make it so much about ourselves.
Yeah.
We make it so much about ourselves that I have no problem. You know, it sounds harmless that one banner is put on a road or next to a school until you begin to do the opportunity cost. Because if every primary school in Nairobi has a banner saying that the member of parliament did this, the member of parliament did that, and what makes it worse, it is taxpayers' money. So this person wants to advertise using our money to do what our money was intended to do. If you multiply that by the number of schools in Nairobi, let's not even talk about the other places, just to put banners to show somebody's face that they used our money, it is, ridiculous.
Okay. Well, of course, putting those banners has always been wrong.
It is ridiculous.
Because I really don't see where the governor has audacity to put a poster. It's not your money.
It is not.
This money has been collected from these people. Actually, the best photo to put there is the public gathering of the people.
Of the people saying that
not you as a person, because the governor did not do anything.
I would want to see the contractor at his own cost putting the bill there saying, as a contractor, I was contracted to do this and this is what I did. For me, it makes sense. But the face of the member of parliament there,
or the governor
does not make sense to me.
All right. We must end it there because we have run out of time. But of course, what we need to be careful is that if we ascribe to democracy, then we must also believe in democracy, and we must appreciate democracy, and we should practice democracy if we want to go the democratic way. And in democracies, leaders accept when they are defeated, and they concede.
It was never about me when I was vying.
Yes.
So I want to stop everybody from moving on in their lives because I didn't get to office. So, and you will see it continues, sir. It continues where you will find a member, by average, a member of parliament goes to court once a month because of a project, because of this. This person who didn't vie, there is another strategy that the residents, the citizens do not know.
Yes.
They normally put court orders and to stop development projects so that this person does not go far ahead. And so I'm wondering, this leader who is sabotaging the other leader from moving ahead, what are they concerned about us? And actually,
I know that is the point.
Most projects are stalling, not because there is no money is used in courts to justify projects that went through public participation, but because somebody didn't get into office, they now have another strategy where they slow down the development by putting in court courses and all that. And so when we're electing leaders, those are some of the things we should audit.
So actually what we are trying to uproot is the masquerades. The masquerades, the people that say we believe in democracy, but they are not democratic in their minds.
We should audit that.
Like
for me, the top on the list is if this person is vying for office and they have ever gone to court to stop a development project, that should be an X for me. Because you don't want us to get development simply because you want to be the one who was in office. Already that's a problem.
That's a problem. And so if it's about the people, it is the people who carry the preeminence. It is the people who are the bosses who elect. But on the other on the other side, we find that Kenyans are made to believe that politicians are their bosses. But the truth of the matter is that the people are the bosses of the MP. and they are the bosses of the president. They are the bosses of the governor.
There you go.
Because they are the ones who will say stay in or come out. And so whatever you do, don't do development for yourself.
One of my filters,
development for the people.
One of my filters for election is a leader when they were not in office. How well did they support the person who is in office? That's the first filter. That's the first filter, because it means they are invested in these people getting good governance.
Yes.
Number two, what other leadership initiatives did they do even without the office? That's another filter.
Okay, we must call it a day. We must end it there. But let's watch out for the masquerading that is going on. Dictators who are purely dictators in mind, but they are hiding and wearing the coat called democracy. Because if really it is democracy, did the people sanction it? Did the people accept that project? Are the people happy with what you are doing, or you are pushing your own agenda? And we, of course, we know dictatorship is bad, is really bad. And any nation that is riding on dictatorship, there is no wise person in that nation. Only the leader is wise. Only the leader has a brain. Only the leader is the law and everything. And if we begin to gravitate towards dictatorship, because I know many times, many leaders gravitate towards dictatorship. We need to refrain. That is why this program came on air. And from all of us, thank you, Alan Kefa, for being with us today. We are coming again to talk about the leadership types and the downside, the benefits and disadvantages of every type of leadership. Today we covered the dictatorship. We saw it is the worst. And now we are looking at democracy, and we are also trying to gauge the masquerading, because a lot of bad people are hiding behind the word democracy. May God help us. From all of us here, it's bye-bye, and see you again this coming Friday, same time, same place. Bye-bye.